And because of the kind of roles I played, Edgar in Lear, Edmund in Lear, Achilles, Orestes, Prince Hal, all of these classic epic heroes, that the one role they would want me to read for is Batman, who is, of all the DC characters, of all the animated universe, he is a classic Shakespearean type of actor. His whole life drama is a Greek drama. I mean, it's so epic. It's so...
His parents killed.
Right. Yeah, it's a Greek drama. When Bruce Timm was describing to me the character, because the only Batman I knew was the Adam West Batman from the 60s. And Bruce Timm said, no, that's not what we're doing. Everyone loves Adam West, but that's not what we're doing. He said, no, and he described to me the character and the tragedy of the background. So I just put myself into, just put in my imagination in the booth. I went to this place and, this dark kind of broody voice. And I sort of found this character just in the audition, just improvising. They were willing to look at an actor that no one had ever heard of, but who had the right instinct for the role and brought the character to life. That was such a lucky moment for me, because it was also the first show where they broke away from that daytime, goofy, broad, cartoony animation that had been done while we were kids growing up. And they were willing to go to this dark, dramatic, epic film noir, incredible scripts, full symphony score, big casts of actors.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like doing a movie every week.
What you heard as an introduction to this episode is the late great Kevin Conroy discussing how he got the role of Batman and his approach to the character, speaking to Michael Rosenbaum on his show, Inside of You. If you want to hear the whole conversation, which I recommend, check out Inside of You on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Greetings, Bat family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast, you will find us. If you love the show and you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. You don't have to. It's fine. We get it. Get other priorities, but for those of you who have become patrons, I can't tell you how much it means. It's very sweet. It makes life so much easier, and I hope you know it is appreciated. And I got to give a shout out to a couple patrons. Patron Andrew Antes, he actually upped his pledge, which is super sweet and very nice. And Andrew, you rock. That is amazing. So Andrew, big shout out, big hug to you from afar. And then also patron Keith Childers. So Keith, Andrew, both of you guys, you're the VIPs for this episode. This episode is dedicated to you. Andrew Antes and Keith Childers must be very nice guys. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to both of you guys, and I really do appreciate your support. So thank you for that, guys. What else? We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. We just dropped our Christmas commercial special late last night. So if you want to check that out, it's out there. And as always, I'm Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now this episode is a little bit late coming, but I warned you all that was going to happen with my traveling for Thanksgiving. But I've returned, and we can't move forward with the show without dedicating an episode to the late, great Kevin Conroy. So this episode is dedicated to Kevin, and we want to share our memories and our tributes to him. What a wonderful human being and an amazing ambassador for Batman for over 30 years. And so he certainly deserves his due. And joining me for all that is my good pal, Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan.
Hey, Andy. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I guess I should say, like, it's going to be kind of an interesting episode because me and Brendan are going to talk, and if everything goes as planned, which you never know, then you will hear Jamie's thoughts later on in the episode. We're going to kind of split the episode up because ideally we would have all done this together, but y'all know scheduling with podcasts, especially when you got people in different parts of the world, gets tricky, and we just couldn't line it up for this week. But I didn't want you or Jamie to miss it, so
yeah, it's an important one, and it kind of adds to the narrative too that Jamie and I now hate each other, and because we haven't been on an episode together for what, 3 or more months, maybe. It's been quite a while.
I think so. I think it was Hunter from Disorder. He goes, yeah, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, they don't talk anymore. I'm like, no, they're fine. It's just
we talk daily in our group chat. It's just we haven't been able to schedule podcasts together.
Yeah. So, I mean, people can make up whatever narrative they want. And on another episode when neither of you are there, I'll tell everybody the truth about the falling out between Brendan and Jamie.
But, touch wood, but we are scheduling the Christmas episode for a couple of weeks, and it looks like all 3 of us can be on that together. So
fingers crossed, man. That's why I booked it a couple weeks in advance, because I am now
have to at this time of year.
Well, exactly. Like much like with Thanksgiving, I am trying to stack the deck with episodes because I'm leaving again for Christmas. So I want to have enough episodes in the can to bridge that gap. And so, yeah, like trying to fit it all in before I leave town again is tricky, but I'm committed to the show, committed to all y'all out there. And so, yeah, like I literally have a December calendar that is way too full with holiday activities, with social activities, and then podcasts wherever I can fit them in. It's a little overwhelming. But I'm doing it. And yeah, like that's
I've got a 3 podcast weekend. I mean, I know that's usually probably a normal weekend for you, but I can't remember the last time I've done. Yeah, right. Are you going to Chicago again for Christmas or somewhere else?
No. So we went to Chicago for Thanksgiving, and then we're going to LA for Christmas, which is where Catherine's family is.
Warm weather. Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing the whole married thing where we switch off holidays.
Right. Yeah.
That thing. So
our families are still in the same town, so it's fine.
Oh, that makes it easier. That's good.
And one of them does. Jess's family do their celebration on Christmas Eve, and my family do it on Christmas Day.
Oh,
so we don't even have to split. It's awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's so smart. But no, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to be out there. But yeah, I leave on the 21st, and so I'm trying to get, again, enough episodes at least to cover December. And then my hunch is the first week of January will be quiet on the feed, and then we will be back. And then we hit January and February, which are the 2 most boring months of the year. Nothing's going on, and then I think we'll be fine.
Isn't March is Shazam? April.
Oh, I think it is March. I think you're right.
I can't remember. Never mind.
Yes.
So we'll have something to talk about.
That's exciting. Well, when I say boring, I just mean in life. I don't mean like DC. I just mean like January and February suck. I hate them because it's just like, remember all the magic of Christmas? It's over, and now you got to wait a whole nother year.
I hate early January.
Oh, January is the worst.
Early February's okay because it's my birthday.
I don't care. I mean, I care, but like it's not, it's not the same. Now February is my daughter's birthday, so that's fun.
That's true. And Valentine's Day.
No, I hate Valentine's Day.
It's because you never spent it with me.
That's probably true. Anyway, before we move on, we of course have to give a shout out to our pals over at Manscaped. 'Tis the season for clean balls. Fa la 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 la.
Love it.
Our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to white elephants, Manscaped's products are at the top of every wish list. Grab some crop mops for your pops or the body buffer for the holiday lover. Win this year's white elephant gift and help all the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog. Wow. This December. I love reading these cold. By going to manscaped.com and using the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off plus free shipping. In all seriousness, this is a great gift idea, guys. It is the gift giving season. And for all the men in your life, or even for yourself, you want to treat yourself. Maybe you do the gift thing where it's like one for them, one for me. And I think that's okay. Like, take care of yourself. whatever, for the man in your life or any men in your life or yourself, like check out what they've got at Manscaped, because they're not the type of gifts that are just going to go in a closet, collect dust, and then get given away a year from now. They're actually very useful. We all really like them. Jamie, Brendan, myself, we use them daily. Truly 100%. I'll tell you, I just got back from Thanksgiving in Chicago. You know what I forgot about, Brendan? Forgot about how dry your skin gets in the freaking Midwest cold.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
I forgot that, and I don't miss that. But thank God I had my trusty Manscaped lip balm and my trusty Manscaped spray lotion to keep me moisturized. And that's a true story. Like, that lip balm was my best friend for 2 weeks in Chicago. So super useful, especially if you live somewhere cold. But all of their products are great. The trimmers, the deodorant, the shampoo, the body wash, the lip balm, etc., etc., etc. Go to manscaped.com. Oh, and now there's a new cologne, which I need to try.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It describes it as a light, breezy, woodsy feel.
Nice.
I'm going to have to ask them for a sample.
All the other stuff smells nice. So
exactly. Like the scents are always really great. The boxers are good. So, I mean, there's lots of great stuff. Go on manscaped.com, do a little perusing. If something jumps out at you, if you want to try something out, I don't think you'll be disappointed, but please do use the promo code BATSCAPED. You get 20% off, you get free shipping, and you're supporting the show while you're doing it. We would really appreciate that.
There's a lot of sales on at the moment anyway, so even if you are buying something and you already getting the discount, still use BATSCAPED because it lets
exactly like if you go to the site and things are marked down, you still use BATSCAPED and get 20% off.
Yes.
So do that. Take care of yourself. So please, check out manscaped.com. It's the perfect gift that will be the holidays' biggest hit for you or any of the men in your life. So we would appreciate that. All right. So let's get to the subject at hand. Unfortunately, right before Thanksgiving, actually, it wasn't even right before Thanksgiving. It just felt like that because I was leaving town. But a few days before I left town, we did lose an incredibly important member of our Bat family.
It still doesn't feel real, man.
It really doesn't.
Really doesn't.
It's crazy to me. Because it was one of those things where when words started getting out, none of us believed it. None of us wanted to believe it because it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I'll tell you, like, we all were kind of in denial. No one was in more denial than Jamie.
No,
he refused to believe it. Like, and I respect the stubbornness, but he was like, he was not having it. Even when people were reporting it, he goes, nope, don't care. Gotta wait and hear something else. But unfortunately it was true.
I missed all that because I woke up as
you were
always.
Asleep. Yeah.
I woke up to it. And actually Jess had sent me it because she was up with Henry before I was. And she'd sent me, I think it was what you'd posted actually, or as Holy BatCast. She sent me that. And I didn't even see the art, I just saw the headline. It's like Kevin Conroy. And I'm like, oh no. And then I jumped online straight away and Jess just like came into the room and she just sort of looked at me and I just shook my head in disbelief.
Yeah. Yep. I know. Same. And it was one of those things where we were already mourning while you were asleep and we were like, oh man, when Brendan wakes up.
Yep.
What a thing to wake up to.
It was a gut punch.
Yeah. So it was surprising. It felt like it came out of nowhere because it turns out he had been sick, but he very just kept it to himself. He wasn't public with it, and
what's it mean? I was going to say, like you said, it felt like it came out of nowhere. It did. Like we had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it did for us, right?
Yeah. For all the fans, of course, literally came out of nowhere. It was an absolute shock.
Yeah. Oh, again, to the point where none of us really believed it or wanted to believe it. So it was one of those things where I saw it. We talked to Joe and Eric from The Fire Rises. We were talking to them about it, and we were all just kind of like, well, hopefully it's not true. Hopefully it's not true. And unfortunately, then it was confirmed. And then a lot of his friends and colleagues started sharing their condolences. And I think that was when I was like, okay, I think this is real.
Mm.
But far too young. I mean, and the fact that he's been doing Batman. I mean, he's been an actor, a working actor for his entire life, but of course, his contribution to Batman is unparalleled.
Second to none. There's not.
Yeah.
No, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean,
30 years constant.
Exactly, and the number of times he played Batman I don't know if anyone's going to rack up those kind of numbers ever again.
No.
When you think of the amount of projects where he played Batman and, 99% of the time it was vocal performance, but I love that he got to do the one live action performance in the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yep.
Like, what a great blessing that was, that he actually got to play Bruce Wayne in live action one time before he left us. But he was not old. He was 66. He would have just turned 67 a couple days ago. So he was born on November 30th, 1955, and then, passed away on November 10th. And so, he just what was that? 3 weeks shy of his 67th birthday.
Mm.
So I guess first tell me, I mean, you when you heard this news, I know you had a really hard time with it.
Yeah.
Because it's like losing a member of the family, someone who has been with us through our Batman fandom for 30 plus years. And the point where he is so synonymous with Batman. His voice is Batman's voice, and there have been a lot of people who have had great Batman voices, but if you're going to call the voice, this is it, right? And if I had a nickel for every time a fan said, "Oh, I hear Kevin Conroy's voice when I read a Batman comic,"
you feel like Scrooge McDuck at the start of DuckTales.
I would need to have a Patreon. Like I could pay for this show for another 100 years.
You'd own Manscaped.
I would buy them.
But it's true.
I'd buy Twitter from Elon Musk.
Oh, please.
But it is true, and I know that in some ways it almost goes without saying because it has been said so much. But it's absolutely true. Like, that voice has now been so tied to the character for so long that it's what you hear. But anyway, sorry. When you woke up that day, Brendan, I know that it was a gut punch, and we were all mourning that day. But tell me how you were feeling.
Similar to how I'm feeling now, actually, because talking about it's really dredging it all up again, because it's been 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
Because it's the first chance we've had to record, but just this feeling in my gut of it's one of those feelings that's hard to describe. But it's that combination of disbelief, sadness, mourning, all sort of rolled into one, but also a feeling of being grateful. I've obviously listened to the episode of The Fire Rises that Joe and Eric did in honor of Kevin, and Joe was saying it, and you know what? I absolutely agree with what he was saying, in that Kevin did so much as Batman that I'm not going to be left wanting. Like, he didn't owe us anything. And that is absolutely correct. To add to that, though, for me, the feeling I have that goes along with that is I'm never going to hear it again. Like, I'm never going to hear any new Batman content again. Any time that they announce an animated movie now or a new animated series or whatever, Kevin's not even going to be in the mix. And that is really sad to me. Just the fact that, as much as we have, there was always going to be more, and now there's not. And that's really, really heartbreaking as a Batman fan, because, as you said, he was the voice of Batman, and not just in the animated properties as well. I mean, and obviously it's the voice that I think, like you said, we all hear when we read the Batman comics, but theme park attractions and stuff like the second Batman Adventure the Ride they had here at Movie World, and the current Justice League one they've got at Movie World. It's Kevin. Like, it's Kevin's voice. Batman. Like, he did the voice for the theme park attractions and stuff as well. So, he was Batman everywhere. And I could be wrong, but with Kevin being gone, I can't see Hamill coming back as the Joker at all. I could be wrong, but I just think I don't think he'd want to do it anymore without his, pun intended, partner in crime there beside him, which is also sad. In saying that, I mean, there's a lot more sort of people who sort of mimic the Hamill Joker voice. Troy Baker, it's a Troy Baker.
Yeah.
And that not a slight on him because he does a great job, but he does what he does. But there was never anyone who did that with Kevin's Batman voice. His Batman voice was unique, never to be repeated. The only person I could think that would come close to who did the most amount of work as Batman would be Adam West. But even that didn't last 30 freaking years, man.
Yeah.
He spent longer than that championing the character of Batman, but in terms of pretty much consistent work of being Batman,
if we're talking sheer number of episodes, number of performances, I think you're right. I think Adam West comes in at number 2, but I think it's probably
there's
a quarter of the time.
I think, yeah,
I think it's 25%. Of how much that Conroy did it.
Because you got to account for all the Justice League shows as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think now, what would have been his last Batman performance, in terms of
fortunately
releases?
I have this sitting right in front of me. The last thing would be by voicing Batman in Multiverses, the video game.
Oh, okay.
Which
interesting.
I gotta say, this is neither here nor there, but whenever we talked about that video game, I kept calling it Multiverse because it took me forever to realize that it's spelled multiverses. So I just have to apologize.
And that's the one with all the Hanna-Barbera and stuff thrown in, isn't it?
Yes. So that's the WB IP mashup fighting game. It's their Super Smash Brothers. Yeah. And so he's Batman in that. And this is interesting. I didn't realize this until just now. He is apparently voicing Thomas Wayne in Batman: The Caped Crusader, the animated series that's coming.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a nice fitting farewell as well. But as far as Batman, it's Multiverses.
Okay, because I was going to ask in terms of animated because I thought it might have been Justice League Action. I wasn't sure, but
though the last time he did something, I guess that's not Multiverses. The last time he played Batman was Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
Okay. Yep. Okay. But yeah, it's just like I said, it's sad that we're not going to get any more. And from a selfish point of view as well, he was someone who I always thought it would just be a matter of time before I got to meet him. With the Supernova conventions and stuff over here, I genuinely thought he'd be someone that might have done the Sydney show one year, and I absolutely would have flown down for it. I am really glad, though, that it was 2018, 2019. San Diego Comic-Con did their absentee things like they usually do. And I got a Kevin Conroy autograph. It's sitting on my shelf, literally within arm's reach from me where I'm sitting now. So I do have an autograph photo from him, but I'm sad that I'll never get to meet the man and just say thank you and shake his hand and just be in the presence of the GOAT. When it comes to Batman, that, I said that, I know that's selfish, but it's true. I genuinely thought the time would come where I'd get a chance to be in the same room with him, and that's not going to happen either. And as a fan, that's heartbreaking as well.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of things I want to reply to that you just said. The first thing is I was very fortunate that I got to meet him. I met him at WonderCon. That would have been, oh my God, I want to say 2019, maybe 2018. Stand by, I'm going to tell you. It was 2019, March of 2019. I got to meet him at WonderCon. I mean, if you listen to any or all of the tributes,
you were lucky too, because that's when you went to China in 2019 as well.
Yeah. So this was March of 2019. I moved to China in June.
Yeah. Wow.
But, anybody who knew the man will tell you what a kind and sweet human being he was. As talented as an actor he was, as much life and pathos and gravitas and intimidation he gave to Batman. He also was just a a great person, and everybody who knew him will tell you that. And I obviously only interacted with him for a couple of minutes, but he was as sweet and as welcoming and as kind as you could ever want him to be. And so I am very fortunate. Yeah. That like, and it was funny because it was an accidental thing. I didn't go to WonderCon to meet him. I was at, this is actually kind of a funny story. I was at WonderCon with Scotty. We used to go every year when I lived in California. It was always Easter weekend, which was so weird, but we'd always go. And that year we were walking the floor, looking at stuff, buying stuff, whatever. And we walked right by, and there he was, just sitting at his table, signing pictures, taking pictures. And I was like, oh my God, Kevin Conroy's here. And he, I think, even waved like as we walked by. Like he was just very friendly. And I was like, I can't believe I've never met Kevin Conroy.
I can't believe it took you that long as well, because you seem to do the conventions a lot over there.
I do, but like I'm not like, I never seek out celebrities. Like that's just not why I'm there. Like that's why some people go to conventions. For me, that's not why I do. So any run-ins I have, it's usually like this, where I just happen to be passing by and I'm like, oh yeah, I should actually go do that because that's someone cool who I like, and what the hell, I should do that. So that's kind of what happened. As we were walking by, he was sitting there. He didn't really have a line. It was very quiet because we always went on Sunday, because on Sunday it was always less busy and people were trying to get rid of their crap so you could get good deals. And so he was pretty chill. And I was like, I think I was just wearing some random ass shirt, and I was like, I can't go meet Kevin Conroy and get a picture with him without a Batman shirt.
No,
that would be ridiculous. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go meet Kevin Conroy, but first I got to go buy a Batman shirt. So I went on the floor, found a booth that was set, and it wasn't the DC booth, but there was this one, it was like a t-shirt booth that had a million t-shirts. And I was like, oh my God, I need to buy a new Batman shirt. And, I own a million of them. So I was like, well, which one should I buy? Because I don't, that I don't have or whatever. So what I went with was like the new 52 bat symbol one.
Yep.
And then I ran into the bathroom and changed, and then ran back to meet Kevin Conroy. And so I went back again. He was lovely, just as sweet as could be, super welcoming, super nice.
I hope you told him you bought a shirt.
I did not.
I would have. He would have loved that.
I mean, yeah, I probably should have been like, just so you know, I realized I was going to meet you, so I went and bought the shirt. And
that's awesome.
Got the signed picture from Batman the Animated Series. And here's what drives me nuts is I don't know where the hell that picture is.
Oh, you need to find that picture.
And do you know why? Because this all happened right before I moved to China. Oh. So I got that picture and it went into storage in some box. Yeah. And then it was in storage for 2 years. And it obviously was in a box I haven't unpacked yet. So it's somewhere in my garage, I hope. But yeah. now I'm so mad that I'm like, shit, I need to find it so I can frame it.
To find it, yeah.
And get it on my wall of fame here. But I got a picture with him. I got the autograph. He was so sweet. He was so kind. And he was wonderful.
It'd be nice to do like a frame thing where you can put the autograph photo and the picture in the same frame.
Yeah,
that'd be really nice.
That's a good call. I will when I post this episode, I will post my photo with Kevin Conroy. I didn't do it when he died, like everyone else did. But I'll do it with this so you guys can see it, especially because now I'm telling the story and you can see the image, like you can see the frame. Not the frame, but excuse me, the signed picture that I got, which is, it's so cool. And so now I'm mad that I don't know where the hell it is. But I'll post it so everybody can see. But yeah, and now like, it's almost like it's like a rule for life in that I think I never sought him out because he was always around.
He was always there.
Right. And so it was always like, oh yeah, I will eventually, like it was one of those things. Mm-hmm. And looking back now going, shit, I've never done it. He doesn't have a line. I'm going to do it today. Thank God I did, because we thought he'd be around another 20 years. Mm-hmm. And we weren't that lucky. It turns out that's not how it went down. And so now I'm so grateful that day I happened to walk past him and realize he was there and do it, because who knew that the clock was ticking? Mm-hmm. Not I.
Nope.
So anyway, it was, I'm really grateful for that experience. I'm grateful that I got to meet him. When I did meet him though, he said the weirdest thing. He said, I just don't want to ever meet Brendan Lowe. Which, so I don't know. He knew.
He knew.
And then I will also say the other experience I had with him, and I think I played it on the show. I played maybe a moment of it on the show. Is while I was in China, a good friend of mine, dear friend Thomas J. Wagner, who is the kindest soul on the planet, maybe next to Kevin Conroy. It just has a heart as big as anything.
And Michael Lyons.
And Michael Lyons, it's true. So there's Kevin Conroy, Michael Lyons, Thomas J. Wagner, just the sweetest people. And then way at the other end of the spectrum is me and you.
Yep. and then a little bit further on is Guy and Jamie.
Yeah, we're down on the nasty section of the scale. But anyway, while I was in China, I don't even know what prompted it, but Thomas got me a cameo for Kevin Conroy. And so he randomly sent me this video. I don't think it was like Christmas or my birthday or anything, but I'll have to double check. But I think it was more out of the blue.
I think there was a reason for it. It might have been your birthday, or it might have even been around one of our anniversary episodes. I can't remember. From memory, there was a reason.
All right. Well, guess what? I have the video right here. I'm gonna pull up the info to see what the date on it is. If I can figure it out. There we go. Get info, because the date will be a good clue.
Wouldn't have been your 40th, would it?
You know what? It was August 15th. And so it would have been
2020?
It was my birthday. It was my birthday. Yeah. Because my birthday is the 11th. So this would have been 4 days after my birthday.
Yeah. And it would be 2020. Am I right?
Yep. 2020.
Yeah, so it was your 40th. Yep.
It was not my 40th. It was my 42nd.
Oh, no, it's because Catherine made a big deal of your birthday that year. I thought it was your 40th.
It was my 42nd.
Okay.
My 40th birthday wasn't really a birthday.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Say no more.
So yeah, it was my 42nd birthday that Thomas did this for me. And again, like Thomas gives very thoughtful gifts, which I love about him. And this was a very thoughtful gift. And at the end of the episode, I will play the audio for the cameo. Some of it, he always does the "I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman." That's how he intros, I think, all the cameos, but that's okay. It's magical. I love it. But he'll also like reference Thomas. And so I want people, when I play it, to understand kind of the context, but it's very sweet. And just what a nice gift. And again, like, our lives only touched those 2 times, really, but both of them I'm so grateful for now. But to go back to one thing that you said that I thought was so interesting was about not lacking in content where Conroy voiced Batman, but also knowing that we won't get any more. I never really thought of it in those terms, but I think for me, what's so interesting is the way I've always thought about it is that when Batman the Animated Series ended, I was like, oh, well, I didn't think it consciously, but I was like, oh, and then, that'll be that for that Batman. And then we got Justice League, and I was like, oh, no, actually, we get a continuation of Kevin Conroy's Batman. And then we got Batman Beyond. It's like, oh, like every time he played the character, to me, always felt like a bonus. Like, once it wasn't Batman the Animated Series anymore, the fact that he kept getting to do it in Justice League and Batman Beyond, in video games, etc., it always just felt like a little bonus, like an extra cherry on top, because we could never count on that because of so many people over the years. They play the part for this chunk of time and they move on, or the character moves on to another version. And so I don't know, like I can't be greedy and be like, I wish we could get more, because I am just so blown away by how much we got over the years. And the fact that it never really ended. The thing that ended it was him passing away.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it would have ended.
It wasn't in like a greedy way of I want more. It's just because
I know.
He was always there, and it's just like there's now that's gone, There's like there's a line in the sand now, and we're never going to hear it again. Yeah, I know.
I mean, I totally understood where you're coming from. I was just saying that, like, I just was like, anytime he would be brought back in any format.
I get what you're saying too, because I felt the same way. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
It was always like, great, he's back. I just think we're so blessed, and he was so blessed to, my God, like, like have a gig that lasts 30 years. Like that's amazing, and it's magical. And we will never hear a new Batman performance from Kevin Conroy again, but we have countless hours of Kevin Conroy Batman that we can hear anytime we want.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. I mean, and someone crunched the numbers. I wish I had it in front of me of like how many video games, how many TV shows, how many films. I don't have it in front of me, but like just I do have the IMDb open. So just to give you, you know, the idea of how much Batman he's done. Obviously Batman the Animated Series, Mask of the Phantasm. The video game started almost immediately with the Sega CD game, The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
There was Batman the Animated Series games.
Yeah. Not like in Super Nintendo or Genesis because they couldn't really do voices too well, but Sega CD could, and so I think that was the first time. The Batman Superman movie, World's Finest, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, Batman Beyond, The New Batman Adventures, guesting on Superman the Animated Series as Batman. The Zeta Project, which I still need to dig up. Apparently he showed up in that as Bruce Wayne. That's the craziest thing that happened, and I didn't know about it. Gotham City Racer was another video game for PlayStation, which I'm so mad I never had, because if they did like a remaster of that, I would purchase it in a second. Batman Vengeance on the GameCube. I played it on GameCube. I think it was also on PS2. That
PS2,
game
I played,
I gathered that game doesn't have the best reputation, but I freaking loved it. I loved that one.
Mm.
It's one of the few Batman games I played from beginning to end, and I loved it. The Batman: The Rise of Sinzu, which I also played on the GameCube, and I also loved. Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman, Static Shock as Batman, Justice League the series, Justice League Unlimited, The Batman. He guested on that as John Grayson.
Yes. Yep. The episode that introduces Robin.
Yep. Batman Gotham Knight, the DC animated film. Batman Arkham Asylum, the video game. Batman and Superman Public Enemies. Batman the Brave and the Bold. He was the Phantom Stranger and Batman of Zur-En-Arrh.
Mm-hmm.
Superman Batman Apocalypse. DC Universe Online. Batman Arkham City. Justice League Doom. Oh my God. It's just Injustice, the video game. God, the Flashpoint Paradox. What else? Batman Assault on Arkham. Infinite Crisis as a video game. Batman versus Robin. He was Thomas Wayne. Oh, you mentioned theme park attractions. The Justice League Battle for Metropolis. That is a game. Sorry. That's an attraction that's in Six Flags here. Mm-hmm. And I love that it's him. Yeah. Arkham Knight. Killing Joke. I felt like wasn't the Killing Joke supposed to be him and Hamill's goodbye?
Apparently, yeah.
But that did not happen.
No.
But yeah, I feel like that was like supposed to be their last big hurrah, but that didn't really work out that way. Injustice 2, Batman VR, Batman and Harley Quinn, Justice League Action, you mentioned that briefly. Lego DC Supervillains, Teen Titans Go he popped up in, and then Justice League versus the Fatal Five. Scooby-Doo and Guess Who as Batman, when he showed up as Bruce Wayne and Batwoman as part of Crisis, and then multiverses.
Wow, that's insane.
Phew. I mean, I apologize for just reading the IMDb page, but like really when you hear it starting back in 1992 and going all the way to multiverses, which is also this year, and then Batman Caped Crusader, which in theory is next year. It's just humbling when you see the volume and how much he did it in so many different ways over the years.
You know what I just realized too, and I'm 99.9% sure I'm right here. I think the last episode I was on was us celebrating the 30th anniversary of Batman the Animated Series.
Was it?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
And then here we are, however many weeks later. And, you know, we're memorializing our Batman.
Yeah. Yep. It is crazy that, I mean, we're celebrating 30 years of Batman the Animated Series, and then this happens, and it's weird timing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say this. So of all of those things, do you have some favorites? Ones that stick out, like, and it doesn't have to be like, you can't just say Batman the Animated Series. Yeah,
Well,
but
obviously Batman the Animated Series, yeah.
But yeah, like specific like episodes or something, or anything that really stand out to you from 30 years of Batman.
You put me on the spot, actually.
Well, I'll go first while you think. Like,
yeah.
for me, I always think of that scene at the gravestone in Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, no, that is a good one.
Like that, I feel like is just an amazing performance. Regardless, it is heartbreaking and it's so good, and I think that's why Kevin is so great as Batman. Like, he plays all sides of Batman, but I think that his Batman is arguably the most well-rounded Batman, because he can be tough as nails, he can be scary, he can be intimidating, he can be smart, he can be thoughtful, but then he can be extremely vulnerable, like in that scene of Mask of the Phantasm. And to play Batman that vulnerable with that much emotion, it breaks your heart. Yeah. And so I just think that, like, of all the ones that really stand out to me, that's one that I always go back to. And I think that's one of the best scenes in the film, maybe the best scene in the film, because it's the one where it's just so charged with emotion. And a lot of that goes, I mean, some of it is the writing, but then a big portion of it is Kevin's performance.
Yeah. Randomly, the one that's popping into my head is like episodes like, It's Never Too Late. Stuff like that, where Batman would be really trying to appeal to someone's humanity, rather than just like punching the Joker in the face or, whatever. Or, Two-Face two-parter and things like that, where the character really gives a damn. They're always really good.
Yeah. He brings humanity to Batman.
Yeah.
And, like there is that always that humanity. And I would also say amazingly dry humor.
Yes.
Like, he can be very funny with a very dry delivery of a joke.
Like Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, the scene where it's been so long since I've seen it, but Superman is injured and they're sort of crawling through, the muck and trying to get through the sewers to get to the Batcave, and like Batman is doing his best to help his wounded friend, and there's a part where they come to like a big iron grate, and I don't know why this stands out in my head, but the way that Kevin/Batman turns to Superman and asks, like, can you do it? Like, he's genuinely concerned for his friend and looking out for him, and it's the humanity that he brought to the role that for me is the stuff that I liked the best. As you said, Mask of the Phantasm overall is just a great vocal performance. I mean, I loved him in Justice League Action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Christmas episode of Justice League Action, where Green Arrow is like so nervous and anxious about Batman turning up to his Christmas party, and like how Flash, goes and gets him and arrives with Batman in a bow as a present for Green Arrow. And I think there's a part where he just like looks at me, is like, put me down. And when he has Plastic Man and he's like after Gorilla Grodd in that episode, and he's like running along with Plastic Man, he's like, sled, and how Plastic Man turns into the sled and stuff. Like, the humor he brought was subtle but really good as well. I mean, he's just, like I said before, he's the GOAT. Like, what no one is ever going to bring to this character, I mean, at least I don't think, at least not in our lifetime, to this character what Kevin did. And one thing that I did think of, and I started seeing it get shared around a lot again in the last few weeks since his passing, was his story about 9/11. That was always one of my favorite Kevin moments for years, since he first told that story about how he was volunteering at one of the fire departments, making meals and stuff for all the volunteers and firefighters, working at Ground Zero. And and he was next to like an attorney or something, and asked what he did, and he said he, was an actor and did voice work, and the guy recognized his voice. He's like, I knew it was you. And like that guy then went out to the whole crowd and was like, you guys aren't going to believe who's making your dinner. It's Batman. And then Wade Kevin tells the stories, like from the back of the crowd, you hear, bullshit, make him prove it. And then from the kitchen, you did the I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. And then he just hits him and go, holy fuck, it is Batman. I've always loved that story, and I'm really glad that it started to get shared around again. And then the other thing that always blew me away about Kevin, I can never remember how long ago it was, but it was recent. And that's I never knew he was a gay man.
That's funny. That was just what I was to bring up. He didn't publicly come out. I mean, he was out, but he did not actually discuss it publicly with fans until 2016.
Yeah.
So you're right, relatively recently. And it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course his friends and his family knew. He was married, he had a husband.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but we didn't know. Yeah, his husband's name is Vaughn, and honestly,
I didn't even know that. Right, my until you just said it then.
My heart goes out to his husband right now.
Because how long were they together?
We don't know.
I imagine it would have been a long time.
Yeah, Vaughn Williams is the name of his husband. No idea.
Wow.
But yeah, like we didn't learn that he was gay until 2016. And it is so, I mean, God, this is such a weird thing to say, but like, it is such proof of how beloved he was that when he came out as gay, no one said a freaking word.
Nope.
And this community of comic fans who get up in arms about things like that, about gay characters, about characters of color. When he came out as gay, nobody had a negative thing to say. And I think that's just because of how freaking beloved he was. I mean, that's how it should be for everyone. But I also think it shows just the amount of respect he commanded. I need to read. I didn't read the Pride issue this year from DC.
I haven't read it yet either.
But he wrote a story in it about how playing Batman helped him come to terms as a gay man and living out and proud. Because when he started as an actor, he was told you can't be out, you can't be gay, it's going to hurt your career, and that is of course extremely challenging. It's really hard, and you want to live truthfully, but at the same time knowing there's repercussions. And in that story he wrote for DC Pride, it was about how playing Batman really gave him the confidence to live truthfully to himself. And I think that's wonderful. And so I wanted to read it in time for this conversation. But as we were saying, things have just been really busy.
Christmas time.
Yeah, no kidding. December. But I love that he was able to express that and write that story this year. And now that we're talking about it, it makes me wonder if he wrote it this year because he wasn't doing so well and he knew he didn't have as much time.
Maybe.
So because to truly expose yourself and tell that story about, here's the challenges I went through in my life and here's how Batman changed it and how it helped me come to terms with who I am and everything. I think that's wonderful. And I'm glad he got to tell that story before he left us.
Yeah. Cause it's on DC Universe, isn't it? Yeah, I'll have to. It is on my to-do list. There's so many things on that app. Oh my God. But yeah.
So yeah, I think that's wonderful too. And I just honestly, I just hope his husband's doing okay. Like, I mean, it's heartbreaking. We lost an icon, we lost a talent, but he lost a partner, and that's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I do hope. Obviously, he was a very private man, and more power to him for being that way. But I would hope that somewhere there will be some sort of a memorial plaque or something, where fans can go and pay their respects and things like that. I know that people were leaving floral tributes at the Batman statue in LA.
The statue in Burbank, yeah.
Yeah. But,
is nice.
just some sort of something at, Warner Brothers Studios or somewhere to really have some sort of permanent memorial to the person who gave so much to this character that we absolutely love, and let's be honest, is Warner Brothers / DC's moneymaker. I think there should be some sort of permanent thing where just to acknowledge the work that he did over 30 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. For years at Warner Brothers on the studio lot, they had this beautiful mural. They had a few over the years, but when I first moved to LA, the mural, it was like Mount Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
And on Mount Rushmore, it was like Bugs Bunny, and it was Batman, and I want to see Scooby Doo. It was all obviously WB, like animated content, but the Batman was the animated series version of Batman.
Yep.
It was Kevin Conroy's Batman, because it is iconic, and again, that's always the silver lining when we have to say goodbye to someone like this, a talent like this, even if it's too young. Again, 66 is far too young. But cancer is the worst, and we hate it, and it's just God. It takes too many from us. But the silver lining is that when Adam West passed, and now when Kevin Conroy passed, like, their legacy is secure.
Oh, for sure.
Like it is a legacy that we could all only dream of. Like, he truly will live as long as the earth has humans on it. Like, he will forever be the voice of Batman. And again, it's not just one thing, it's countless things. And so there is some comfort in that, in knowing that Henry and Harley will hear his voice as Batman as they're growing up, and their kids are going to hear his voice as Batman growing up, and on and on and on. And it's what we all hope happens after we go,
like a Mel Blanc or something like that back in the day was just everywhere with animation. He will be that for Batman forever.
Exactly.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And I think that's wonderful. And by all accounts, it couldn't have happened to a more wonderful person. And so I'm glad that he was so talented and gave so much life and so much, as we kept saying, humanity to this character, to our favorite character in the world. But I'm glad that he is someone, it sounds like, who deserved it, who had a huge heart, who was incredibly intelligent, who was incredibly giving, who was incredibly wonderful. I love to hear those stories, and I loved reading the tributes from Mark Hamill and from Tara Strong and from just all these people who knew him and worked with him. It was wonderful. Paul Dini, like these people who knew him best. It was so great to read it, because we lost a Batman, but we also lost a really special human.
Yeah, I did send our friend Rachel Kimsey, who voiced Wonder Woman in Justice League Action, a message the day that it happened, just sort of passing on my condolences, because she was friends with the guy. And she wrote back saying thank you, and she said he truly was a special man, kind, thoughtful, and funnier than most people knew, and so generous.
That's great.
So, yeah, man, I've had a lump in my throat for most of this conversation. Hey,
yeah. Well, again, he will truly live forever. His work will live forever. His name will live forever, and that's and there is comfort in that.
Yeah,
and we can always go back and revisit our favorite Kevin Conroy Batman performances, which is wonderful. Any other?
Let's put it this way: I don't think in all of those years and all of the things that we listened to, I don't think he ever gave a bad performance.
Oh no, not at all.
I mean, like, there might be some things, like, say, like the fart scene in Joker and Harley Quinn or whatever, like, the people, might not like, but he was still giving a great performance in it. Like, he never gave a bad performance as that character, or any character to my knowledge. But in terms of Batman, every performance was absolutely just A+ perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up this little chat?
There's nothing else I can think of. I think if we keep talking, I'm probably going to cry.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. And I think that we both shared our love, and it's something that, man, nothing gets the family together like a funeral. And
Right.
but again, the upside of that is just seeing fandom and colleagues and friends pour their hearts out, pay tribute to a very special person who did so much for us as fans, did so much for this character that we love. And yeah, I just think that wherever he is, you know, we're sending him nothing but love and thanks and gratitude. And he did a lifetime's worth of work with the character that we love over the past 30 years, and we can all be very grateful for that.
Yep. Here.
All right, so we'll leave it there with for now for Kevin, but the conversation isn't over because we also need to hear what Jamie has to say. Mm-hmm. But before that, we got another special tribute from a very special friend of the show.
This is Michael Uslan, the originator and executive producer of the Batman film franchise. This past October, Kevin Conroy did a 1-hour Zoom talk with my class at the Indiana University Media School, as he has done each year for my classes. He's always brilliant and powerful, but this time he seemed more candid, more intense than ever before. The Kevin Conroy I was so privileged to know was more than simply a great stage presence, superb actor, and master of his craft. He was also a great humanitarian and a teacher in his own right who led by example. The way Kevin chose to live his life made him one of the finest role models imaginable. He spoke to my class from his heart and from his soul and told them about his own journey to fulfill the passions he had for acting and what he early on realized was his essential need to persevere against all odds, but importantly, doing so without ever sacrificing his innate intelligence, integrity, or honor. Kevin Conroy was one of the most honorable people I have ever met. That trait was matched only by his spirituality. Everything about him was a powerful force of good. He encouraged my class to master their craft, to follow their dreams, and to never let life get them down because the only thing that never dies is hope. Of course, needless to say, Kevin Conroy has been the definitive voice of the Batman, but also of Bruce Wayne. He embodied the best of both of these alter egos. If you don't believe this man was a real-life superhero, I'll share a story that we had agreed on would not be told publicly. Now, however, with his passing, I think it's appropriate to tell it. Some time ago, there was a story on the news about a little boy with cancer who had been undergoing difficult, painful, ongoing procedures in an attempt to save his precious life. This little boy loved his superheroes, especially Batman. And so his amazing parents would not only dress him up as Batman or other superheroes when they took him for his treatments, but they too would get dressed up in costumes straight out of Gotham City and the pages of 4-color comic books. It wasn't just one little boy facing this difficult challenge alone. It was his entire Batman family facing these challenges together. When I told Kevin about this story, he immediately said he wanted to talk to this boy and his parents, but it needed to be kept secret. He did not want any publicity about it because that was not the reason he was motivated to do this. So, very quietly, I arranged for the one and only Batman to call this child, and I listened as he encouraged him and inspired him and let him know that Batman cared and to always keep his chin up and fight the great fight. The impact Kevin had that day cannot be calculated. And the impact Kevin has had on the world through his incredible work as the definitive voice of Batman and Bruce Wayne also cannot be calculated. We've lost a great stage actor and a great Batman, but more importantly, a great human being. I will never forget my time with my friend, nor his positive, inspiring words and deeds that I'll carry with me for all the years to come. The world is a better place because Kevin Conroy lived in it. Godspeed, Kevin.
So first of all, I have to give a huge thank you to Michael Uslan for recording that for us. Michael, that was so wonderful. What a great tribute to Kevin Conroy, and it was great hearing it right from you. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to record that for us. Brendan and I have already talked, but now joining me, it's Jamie Drewley. Hi, Jamie. Like I said earlier, I didn't want to do this episode without either of you, and so this is the way we got to do it. We got to split it up, but it's good to have you on this Sunday morning, as we usually do.
Yeah, the global time zone struggles continue, but we chug along.
You'll hear it, but me and Brendan joked about how everyone's going to think that you guys hate each other now.
Oh, we do, but we still. It's one of those loving hate things,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The 14-year-old buddy relationship,
You're frenemies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just us vying for your affection all the time. For whoever's going to be the favorite, but
You know what? There's room in my heart for both of you.
Well, we appreciate that.
For both of you and the Kroger Cougar. And also my wife and daughter.
The Kroger Cougar. My God. Oh, that's that's going to be an ongoing thing. I see it coming. Instead of just you and Scott, now it's just going to be a circle of contact about the Kroger.
That's fine with me. So yeah, friends, you guys got to go check out the Real Fans Christmas commercial if you don't understand that reference. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, Jamie. We Brendan and I talked a little bit about our memories and our love for Kevin Conroy as an actor, especially for what he brought to the role of Batman over 30 years. And then just as a human being, by all accounts, just a wonderful person. So I wanted to get your insight, your memories as well, so that way we could truly feel like the entire Holy BatCast crew chimed in. So, yeah, please tell us a little bit about like your memories of discovering Kevin Conroy and yeah, like favorite moments, favorite performances, things like that.
Sure. So, I mean, you all have heard me talk about it before. I was kind of at a strange age when the Batman animated series started in 1992. I was 17 years old. At that age, some people will, especially boys, will have a tendency on focusing on other things than geek loves and whatnot. But I watched a few of the episodes of the show here and there, and of course, I always enjoyed it. It's just not something I ever got into the regular rotation, unfortunately. And then we circled back doing it on the show, covering every episode at some point. And I know so many people out there consider Kevin Conroy to be their Batman. So many people talk about, they read comics and it's his voice that they hear. And he means so much to so many people out there. And even though I don't carry the sentimental attachment that so many people do, I do love that show. And I always loved Kevin and his performances that he gave in there. He was so good at it. I mean, they've asked him to return so many times over the span of 3 decades for a very good reason. I mean, he's an icon. He is, I mean, how could you at this point talk about always we talk about our theoretical Mount Rushmores of who would be the best in this particular category. And if you did a Mount Rushmore of Batman, how can he not be on that? I mean, he's so powerful and memorable and so good in that role. And he brings that range of emotion to both Bruce and Batman in his own way. And so much talent and so much skill. And he's sorely going to be missed. So even though I don't carry that, the strong sentimental attachment from my youth that so many others out there do, it really stung getting this news because I recognize how important he is and how much he means to everyone out there, myself included, even if it's not on that same level. So that was a shocker, kind of a sting. And, you and I chatted about it. I didn't even want to believe it. I refused to take it as factual until I saw a solid source come up with it. And then, at a certain point, within an hour or so after the initial buzz started to fly about it, I kind of had to accept it, and it hurt, and I didn't care for it. But we have tremendous memories with Kevin, and he was so great in this role. I mean, one of, if not the best Batman voices ever, animation or otherwise. I mean, it just simply incredible what he delivered in that role over the years, and playing it in different roles, not just in the animated series, but in movies as well. And even in a live action appearance at one point on the WB shows, the CW shows. I mean, it just amazing. And I'm glad he was so involved and so well loved, and so he seemed to really embrace it, too many times, especially in the old days, not so much these days. Actors will oftentimes try to shun things that they didn't want to be associated or involved with anymore, but never him. He always seemed to say yes. And I don't ever believe in his case that it was a paycheck gig. I felt like he truly loved and enjoyed doing it, and it meant a lot to him. And it really showed through in the performances that he delivered there. And even more important than all of this, we love and respect him as the Batman that we know him as. But more than that, and I didn't know him, of course, but by every single account, this guy was a magnificent human being. And to me, that's far more important than any of the other stuff. And I don't mean to disrespect any of the other stuff or say it's not important, but when you have a genuine good person who gives their time and their love and their efforts to people in the real world, to me, that just elevates them as an icon and truly important. And I want to certainly recognize him for that at the same level or more than I would for his Batman. And I know it's a Batman show, but to me, that's more important, being a good person in real life. And by every single account, he was that guy. He didn't have a disingenuous, if that's the right word, bone in his body by any account that I've ever read or encountered by him. So he's truly going to be missed. It's very sad. I mean, far too young, but we've got great memories, and we'll be able to pass it on to future generations who hopefully will continue to appreciate it the way that we do.
Yeah, it's true. And I liked what you said about, the Mount Rushmore of Batman. He absolutely has earned a place on there. And to the point where, as nerds, as Batman fans, everybody has their favorite Batman, and we all debate about it. Hopefully a friendly debate, not always. But to the point where 99% of his performances of Batman, they were all vocal performances. And yet you still have people who are like, he's my favorite Batman, bar none. But, completely over anyone else, anyone who actually put on the suit, anyone who did it in live action. He's just my favorite Batman. And I do get that. I always was like, that's not a fair comparison. That's my take, is I'm like, it's a very different type of performance, not a fair comparison. But you can't deny that he just personified Batman for so long in so many different ways and so many different projects that, yeah, if you're just saying Batman performances, he's at the very top, and he absolutely deserves a spot on that Mount Rushmore. And then speaking to him as just a human being, is just a very sweet person. This is someone who, he not only loved the role and embraced the role, and this was something that me and Brendan talked about, is about how no matter what the project was, and whether you like a specific show or a movie or an episode, whatever it is, to your point, he never phoned it in. He always was there. He always gave 100%. Like his passion for the character, his conviction always came through in that performance, no matter what the project was. And you've got to respect that as well. So truly. And then he always, he was not only a great Batman, he was a great ambassador for Batman. He loved the character, and he shared that love. He always had time for fans. I told the story with Brendan about how I met him at WonderCon, but my story will be the same as thousands of other fans who've met him at conventions and everything. He was kind, he was friendly, he was patient, he was nice, he was supportive. I don't think he ever took that gig for granted, and he knew that he had the fans to thank for that. And so I think he always had time for us, which means so much too.
And for somebody who served that role for as long as he did, and to maintain that, I mean, that's so impressive to me. Yeah. Because at some point, I truly understand why an actor or performer would get burnt out and not want to talk about that anymore. But I've never read an account of somebody catching him on the wrong day, or him saying, I don't want to talk about Batman today. There just was never any of that about him that I caught any report of. And maybe at some point it did happen, and it's just something I didn't catch. But I mean, for him to serve that role for as long as he did, and still embrace and love and sharing that joy and passion with the fans, to me is just so impressive and so amazing. because you simply do not see that often enough, in my opinion. I'm not going to say he's the only guy in the world that's ever done this, but it just, you see too many times, in my opinion, that people just don't want to be involved in those conversations anymore. And he's never seemed to be that way.
Yeah.
That's just, again, I think that piggybacks on what I'm saying about him as a person. Maybe he at some point was having a rough day or didn't get enough sleep or had a tough flight or anything like that, but he still never brought that across to whoever was in front of him. And that's truly a rare thing. I mean, just in day-to-day life, let alone somebody who's meeting and greeting fans who've, only ever heard his voice or something along those lines. And for him to just bring that through no matter what, I can't give him enough credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Just, wonderful actor, a wonderful soul. And to what we were talking, I do think that he knew how fortunate he was to be Batman, and I don't think he ever took it for granted. And I think that always shone through in when he talked about it, or the performances he gave, or his interactions with anyone. I think he just was very grateful to be able to have such a big part of the legacy of the character, and it showed. And I think that that's great too.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad that we were able to make some time just so you could get in your thoughts and feelings. Anything else you wanted to say? But I do want to try and get some of these emails responded to as well.
The only other thing I will say, just folks, make sure the next generation gets the appreciation. I mean, I was, late to the party for my appreciation for Conroy and Batman, but eventually it came around to me. But, so many of us out there, you yourself got gosh, what is Harley? She turns 10 months this month, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Oh my goodness. Time just
yeah.
gets away. But,
yeah.
Any of you out there with young kids on the way, kids that are in an age bracket where you can start, getting them involved in this, make sure that this legacy of Kevin Conroy carries on to that generation and the generation behind them. Do your part, just give the exposure, show the kids the shows and just make sure it continues on, because he truly deserves to be remembered for all of this. And that's the best way to do it, is to just make sure that future generations know and appreciate what has already become and what will certainly continue to be designated classic going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that was one of the things that I said earlier, is that Harley will hear him as Batman because he did Batman in so many different things in so many different ways. That's who she's going to hear when she sees things. That's what Henry is going to see. And then that performance will live on, which there's a lot of comfort in that, knowing that future generations, when they go back to so much Batman media, the voice they're going to hear is Kevin Conroy.
Certainly.
Very nice. Well, I mean, as you said, much too soon, too young to say goodbye. But if we have to say goodbye, it's still nice to see the outpouring of love and support for the person he was and what he brought to the character. I know that we as fans, we love him so dearly, and he has earned all of that. And he is a important part of the character that we're going to keep in our hearts and our lives till the end of our lives, but it will also live on forever as well, which is pretty wonderful too. So even though he was taken too soon, he has a hell of a legacy and a hell of a body work that will live on forever, far past all of us. And I think that's great. And that's great to hear. And so just nice for all of us to open our hearts a little bit and share our love for this very special person.
Indeed.
All right. Well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Brendan, and thank you, Michael Uslan. Thank you guys for all sharing your thoughts and your tributes to Kevin Conroy. I think that is one thing that we as fans, we all can get together and just remember what a wonderful person this was. Now, before we move on, we have another tribute to share. Earlier in the episode, Brendan mentioned our friend of the show, Rachel Kimsey, who was the voice of Wonder Woman on Justice League Action, and she was kind enough to send us this message in tribute of her friend and colleague, Kevin Conroy. So we're very honored to share this tribute from Rachel.
My name's Rachel Kimsey. I had the enormous pleasure of working with Kevin on Justice League Action. It's hard to describe the feeling of walking into a room and realizing that not only am I suddenly a part of the Justice League, but that Batman, the original Batman, my Batman is there in the room with us, setting the tone, creating the environment that we're all going to work in. The only thing that made that feeling and that experience better was realizing that he was just one of the nicest people I've ever met. He was kind, he was generous, he was willing to help. He never took for granted the position that he was in and the gift that being Batman with us for so long was. But that also didn't change his ability to just be himself in the room. If all you knew about Kevin was his work, you might not know that he's really, really funny. I remember so many times that he would just come bounding into the room with all of this energy and a smile. One of the great privileges we had on that show is we actually got to record live in person together. And because that doesn't happen all that often anymore, lots of people wanted to show up in person. And the number of times that someone would walk in the door, see Kevin, and their whole body would light up with joy, and they would, come across the room and give him a huge hug, and he would hug them back. And there was just this palpable love in the room. You couldn't not love him. And some people maintain relationships for years because of how deep their heart is, and you could see how connected all of these relationships were. I was so grateful to even get to be a tiny part of that legacy. But I mean, there's this infamous picture of Kevin and Mark Hamill that goes around. There was a day that the whole Justice League and the Joker were all in the same room recording together, which was just like the coolest experience of my life. But one of the best parts about it was the two of them playing with each other, playing off of each other, and just how joyful they were to see each other and to celebrate each other's successes at that moment and everything that was happening. There's something powerful about that kind of love and that kind of connection lasting for decades and decades. And he's going to be missed by so many of us, because you just can't replace somebody like that. You just can't. We loved him.
Wow, that was wonderful. So again, huge thank you to Rachel and to Michael Uslan, both of them, for taking time out of their busy lives, their busy schedules, to share their tributes, their memories of what a wonderful human being Kevin Conroy was. We can obviously gush all over him as fans, but to hear from people who knew him personally and worked with him and can really speak to the kind of person he was inside, I think is invaluable, and it means the world to us that both Rachel and Michael did that. So thank you both. You guys are amazing. It is time to move forward. We have a lot of emails to get to, so let's do that. Let's check in with you fine feathered finks and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all Master Wayne.
All right, I'm going to go a little out of order because I happen to see one here that says remembering Kevin Conroy, so it feels appropriate. This is for Mark Bickford. It says, "Hey guys, my condolences to Kevin's friends and family, and also to you and all my fellow fans who are mourning Kevin Conroy. I can't say that Kevin was my Batman. I was already beyond drinking age on 6/23/89, let alone a couple of years later when Batman the Animated Series hit. So the Batman of my youth were Adam West and whoever voiced him on Super Friends. And I'll forever place Michael Keaton as number one for making Batman not a joke for the rest of the world. But as soon as the Cat in the Claw hit my screen, I knew that they'd created something special. Kevin Conroy genuinely created the Batman voice. Everyone before him and after had used the same voice in the cowl as out of it, so for that alone, he should be remembered. But of course, he went far beyond that. 30 years of animation and video games, as well as that one live action appearance in Crisis on Infinite Earths. When Kevin Conroy said that when creating the broken, bitter, murderous Bruce he played on that episode, he drew on Mask of the Phantasm and thought about what Bruce's choice then would do to the rest of his life and how it would leave him embittered and isolated. I really appreciated the vast perspective his decades of experience with the character gave him. The man was an excellent actor and a brilliant Batman. It's incredibly fitting that he was the only Bruce we saw in the entire run of the Arrowverse. One last note about The Cat in the Claw. I listened to your review from way back when, and one thing that you didn't mention was the thing that caused Fox to move it up to be the series premiere. The scene when Red Claw walked in front of the slide projector and the animation looked real. Today, we might take the quality of work on BTAS for granted, but in 1992, that was a total mic drop moment. And of course, the overall quality of the show was what gave Kevin Conroy the chance to shine in the first place, as he became the central piece in the magnificent puzzle. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Your work here is done. You've completed it beautifully. Take care, Mark. Very nice. Yeah, very nice, Mark. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's great, and I appreciate your perspective, and a lot of great points in there. So,
and he kind of follows in with what I was saying. You know, he was kind of, and I don't know if the term's quite right to say aged out, but I mean he's like me. He was a little older when the show premiered, so not necessarily the target demographic, or maybe busy with other things in life and didn't have time to sit down and watch it each day after school or whatever. But still has that tremendous appreciation. So it's good to know that there are those of us out there that, even though we didn't grow up with Kevin as our Batman, we still have that fondness and that respect for it.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd never heard that story about the Cat in the Claw, about the animation being so good that was why it was moved up to be the first episode. I didn't know that, which is probably why we didn't mention it. So thanks for sharing that too. All right, next message is from Paul Shanley. It says, "Hey guys, I finally saw Black Adam and I loved it. There was an ad for Shazam! Fury of the Gods before, as you would expect. I couldn't help but think that the two movies seem so different in tone. I have some difficulty in seeing this version of Black Adam go against this version of Shazam. Given that Dwayne Johnson has made things pretty clear that he's interested in being a Superman antagonist, and given how protective he is about his brand, I have a lot of trouble seeing him agreeing to get beat up by Zachary Levi, and I don't think the fact that he's such a major Shazam villain in the comics is much of a factor outside of nerds like us, because who's going to know the difference? I think it's more likely that, unless the next Shazam movie is a massive hit, Shazam plays a supporting role in anything and whatever they're cooking up going forward, and they find other villains for Shazam to take on in his own movies. Thoughts? Thanks as always, Paul." Thanks, Paul. Jamie, what do you think? What do you think about Black Adam and Shazam, and if they were not to then go up against each other?
Well, I think they kind of have to. I mean, their origins are so closely tied, being based in essentially the same way. At some point, they have to. The approach that's taken can be done in a different way than just those two toe-to-toe in the third act of a Shazam film or Black Adam film. You can always do it in a way, we've talked about before, where it's Superman and Shazam taking on Black Adam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the one way to ensure that the advantage is given to the heroes, is having that 2-on-1 advantage. And Shazam probably won't have the experience or the knowledge to be able to go toe to toe 1-on-1, but they're trying to establish the idea of Shazam and Superman having a friendly relationship. I think that all lines up. And Dwayne wanting Superman to be his number one, I get where he's coming from with that, because he wants to establish himself as the big bad of the DC universe. And I can't blame the guy for wanting that, for aspiring to that. If I was in his position, I'd probably, want to be the baddest and take on the baddest. I mean, I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, I think everybody has to be aware, and hopefully Gunn and Safran are very aware of this too. You can't leave Shazam in the dust at that point. So to me, the right approach is the Superman Shazam take on Black Adam. I don't think choosing one or the other, or just choosing to ignore one completely is the right way to go.
Yeah, I totally see that, and I understand the point, but I do think, and as we talked about when we reviewed the film, we were very impressed, because up until the release of the film, it really looked like they were trying to distance Black Adam from Shazam. to the point where if I hadn't seen the movie, I would understand what you were saying, Paul, where I feel like, oh, they're trying to make Black Adam his own thing and move him away. But then when I saw the movie, there was so much connective tissue to Shazam that you now cannot ignore that. So I don't think that's the plan. I don't think they're trying to shy away from having Black Adam and Shazam meet, because then you wouldn't put in the Wizard and Shazam and the nods to Shazam in that film. So I think that is still inevitable that these two are going to get together, but I do understand that The Rock might want to make it more than just that. And I think that's okay. I think you can have both. I think you can have Black Adam and Shazam lock horns in a future film, even though the tones of the films are different. I don't think they're so different that you couldn't put the two characters together, but still have Black Adam come out of that film with a grudge where he becomes a bigger bad for not only Shazam, but Superman and the rest of the DC universe. So I think there's a way to do all of it, but personally, I would be very disappointed if Black Adam and Shazam do not get to have that adversarial relationship in a film, because he is a Shazam villain. So
sure. And even the idea that I'm sorry, his name escapes me, the Kandaki kid, the son, basically being so much like, is it Freddy in Shazam that's like the superhero obsessed one? Having those two be that similar, I don't feel like is any kind of coincidence at all.
Right.
I think there's got to be a plan for the two of them at some point to meet on a screen and be like geeking out together. I think that would be a missed opportunity not to take advantage of that. And, I hope everybody's in this for the long game. I hope Dwayne Johnson doesn't just want to do Rock solo film or Black Adam solo films for 2 more times and then, off to his other projects. And I know he's a busy guy and he's got plenty of work. There's no doubt about that, but play the long game. Let me get to a point where I can see him maybe even clash with Wonder Woman. I think that would be a fantastic time too. It just, there's opportunities here to take advantage of this character on so many levels, but it's going to be really hard to get it all done in 1 or 2 more movies. So hopefully the long game plan is in place and everybody's willing to participate and make it the best it can be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think that based on the grosses for Black Adam, which have been solid but not extraordinary, honestly, I think it's going to land right around where Shazam landed, which would be fine, except for it costs twice as much as Shazam. But that being said, I don't know how much it will be Black Adam solo films moving forward, but he's still such an important cog and such an important asset. You need to use him in other films and team up films or whatever. I think
in getting him involved with the likes of Superman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Batman, Flash, whatever, I think that just increases the interest and the chances of these things happening going forward. Because no disrespect to Dr. Fate or Hawkman or even Cyclone and Atom Smasher, I just, those aren't big recognizable faces, which I guess I understand because you don't want Black Adam being overshadowed in his own movie. But going forward, I think the mix in of the more recognizable characters benefits everyone.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I'm gonna jump to some of these Black Adam questions since we're already on the subject. This is from Narc Jurosevic. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCasters, I hope all's well. I wanted to follow up on my question about who would be a worthy adversary for a Black Adam Superman team up. I'd love to see an adaptation of the Thanagar War. Thanagar War?
I think it's Thanagar. I'm not
sure. With the involvement of Black Adam and Superman. It'd make an interesting and complex tale as each character might take different sides of the conflict and place them at odds rather than on the same team. In the comic series, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, and Adam Strange join forces and stop the war. They also have the involvement of the Green Lantern Corps and one of my favorite underused characters in Captain Comet. This would be an amazing cosmic level movie or series of movies that could be the culmination of a phase, so to speak. On another note, let's hope the unfortunate cancellation of Stargirl does not result in the demise of Superman and Lois. I'm hoping that since the series distanced itself from the Arrowverse to remain safe, and there's always room for 2 Supermen. On the topic of Superman, I'd forgotten that James Gunn had been offered the role to direct either Superman or the Suicide Squad. If he had chosen Superman, what type of movie do you think it would have been? Would he have brought Cavill back? And how do you think it would have impacted what's happening now? Cheers, and I welcome your thoughts, Mark. Thanks, Mark. So as far as Black Adam and Superman, and the story really being around the Rand Thanagar War, I think that could be really cool. It sounds like a huge epic movie. So, but yeah, I mean, I like that as a big story to then insert them into. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and we're talking strictly them teaming up, like, at each other's backs, fighting everybody else, kind of a thing. If you're doing that, then yeah, having something like that certainly would work. Getting the involvement of, say, the new gods, so your power levels stay up, I think would also work really well. I mean, honestly, the most exciting thing he said to me while going through that was the Green Lantern Corps involvement, because that can't get to a screen soon enough, in my opinion. But
well, yeah,
I mean,
and
you can't do purse snatchers when you have Black Adam and Superman teaming up. You need that super high power set for them to have a threat that's worthy of them combined. And that's kind of a tough thing to do.
Yeah. And I like the idea of it really revolving around the Thanagarians, because then you get to use Hawkman again from Black Adam and expand on his character. So there's also some continuity there. So I think it's a great idea. I would be into it. We also hope that Superman and Lois survives. I don't think we've heard one way or the other yet, but I hope so.
I mean, there was a time not very long ago where I would have simply said, just move it to an HBO Max exclusive, but I don't feel like that's going to happen anymore.
Yeah. And then a James Gunn Superman. That's a tough question. I have no idea. Like, I mean, I think tone-wise, I could kind of figure out what the tone would be. I'm thinking more of a Guardians tone with a little more colorful, a little more exuberant, but still with his irreverent sense of humor in there.
I feel like you would have got more whimsy and heart, because he knows how to do that. He knows how to be silly but still keep a core heart in it. I mean, I'm not a fan of Guardians 2 at all, but I still definitely love the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. And that was, even go back and listen to the Real Fans episode. That's what impressed us so much is, yeah, it was humorous and it was silly. And, sometimes you even rolled your eyes at it, but there was so much heart in that movie. And that's really what carried it across the finish line for me. So
yeah,
I feel like he would have done that same approach with Superman, not beat for beat like Guardians, but I think he would have played a lighter element to it, but he would have had that heart. That I feel like he loves and respects these characters enough that he would have made sure that Superman stayed true to his core self when all was said and done. So yeah, I probably wouldn't have been thrilled about it upon the announcement, but as each day passes, this guy becomes more and more my hero, and I still can't believe I'm saying that. But
I don't think any of us can. But yeah,
I feel like he could have delivered on that front. I really do.
Yeah. Whether or not he would bring back Cavill, I have no idea. At that point in time, my hunch would say yes. I mean, with the Suicide Squad, I got the feeling that he could have done like a hard reboot, but instead he used much of the same cast that David Ayer used. So I think he would have kept the continuity. So yeah, if I were going to guess, I would guess he would have gone back to Cavill.
I feel like it's an ain't broke, don't fix situation. So yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't have, unless they just couldn't have got the contract negotiated in enough time to make it work.
Right. Yeah. I guess it just depends on how hard of a no it really was behind closed doors at WB. And I don't think anyone knows that for sure. Let's say any fans know that for sure. We've all heard stories, we've heard rumors, we've heard different versions, but I just don't know how hard of a no it truly was. And if it was something where James Gunn were to say, no, I'm going to use Henry Cavill, at that point, would the powers that be have gone, okay, well, great, then bring him back? Or if they'd have been like, nope, we've decided, no Cavill. I have no clue. But
I feel like at that point, Gunn had enough clout coming off the two Guardians movie successes and even his involvement in the Infinity War saga, because he very much participated in the making of at least one, if not both of those, with his Guardians characters in there. I feel like he was carrying enough clout that if he would have given that as a, not going in there and saying it's Cavill or nothing, but I feel like if he would have in there and say, hey, I'd really like to use him going forward, I don't feel like they would have said no.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. All right, next one is also another Black Adam, Shazam, Superman question. This one's from Stephen Marshall. It says, "Hey, hope you're doing well into the festive season. I had an idea for eventual Black Adam heel turn and how it could work, despite him ending his film in a heroic manner. So we know that Adam is really connected to the family that helped him in the first film. They'll probably feel like his new family. So what if Adriana became ISIS, which I believe is supposed to happen?" As she does, and she accidentally kills her brother and hospitalizes Aman. Adam tries to stop her, but she's more powerful than he is. He knows he needs more power, so he decides to steal it from the Shazamily, leaving Adam decimating the siblings and Shazam being the only survivor. I don't mean to kill them, just steal their power. This in turn breaks the warning by Waller and Superman after speaking to Billy, knowing what happens, and decides to go up against Adam, which gives us our 2-on-1 situation at the end. All three would have to team up to take down ISIS. Another thought I had is that you could somehow involve Savannah and Mr. Mind, who are manipulating Adam for their own gains. Sorry, I know it was long, but what are your thoughts? Kind regards, Steven. Thanks, Steven. I think there's something there, but I don't want to see the family get killed. Like, that just feels awfully harsh. Like, I like the idea of like the new status quo is broken up, whether it be about this new surrogate family he has or whatever, and that sends him on a path looking for more power, which puts him at odds with the Shazamily. Like, I like that, but Adriana becoming ISIS and killing her brother and almost killing her son. I don't know. To me, that feels awfully harsh. I don't know how much I'd like that, because I really liked all those characters.
Yeah, I don't know that I would miss the brother so much, but
yeah, I figured. But for me, like, yes, like I think the core idea is solid, especially because there has to be a reason for Black Adam to leave Kahndaq, go out there, start messing with the rest of the world, which is why Waller and Superman are like, oh, no, we told you this ain't gonna fly. So yeah, there's some interesting ideas in there. Jamie?
Yeah, I think there's a really fine line that you have to toe when you're trying to get a movie to have some weight and some stakes to it. You know, just starting to off beloved characters to show your finality with how committed you are to creating those stakes. It can get really tricky. You know, I guess the best reference I can come up with, because it's the freshest in my mind, would be season 4 of Stranger Things. You know, they really played with a lot of people's emotions going in there, but then they kind of tried to double down on it at one point, and it felt like they were just kind of repeating themselves. So just killing somebody for the sake of doing it, I don't feel like is quite the right approach. But yeah, like you, I think there's a lot of good ideas in there to ignite that heel turn, as he put it. I mean, that's as good as any. Again, I really lean more towards that idea of Kahndaq views him as a hero, and it's pretty much the rest of the world that does not. I think there's very fertile ground to play with a lot of these ideas in there, in that somehow or another Kahndaq could come under attack by a super being, and they leave Kahndaq, and he leaves Kahndaq to go take care of this being, and everybody's like, hey, we told you not to step out of these borders. I mean, I think that's probably more where I would lean in the direction to take. Of course, I'm not skilled enough at concept and writing to, you know, flesh it out quite as well, but I think I'd lean more towards there than starting to off people that he has that established relationship with now, because they're what's going to keep him grounded, said and done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you wipe out everybody and he just becomes a permanent villain, that's one thing, but I feel like that's taking it down a darker road than where DC probably wants to tread anymore.
Well, and I don't know a lot about ISIS. I do like laying the seed for that to happen if that's where they wanted to go. But I thought ISIS was a hero. Is she not? I
really don't know.
Okay,
I mean, I have very limited exposure to her, you know, the same way I do Adam, because I read them in the same story, that 52 series that ran. So yeah, I really can't comment on that. I don't know.
All right. Well, neither of us know, so never mind. Forget it. But anyway, thanks, Steven. Some cool ideas in there, and I appreciate you sharing. Next message is from Jazzy Jules, Julian Chan. It says, "Hey guys, so the rumor mill has, and this is a few weeks old, so apologies, but the rumor mill has been abuzz with the news that Zaslav recently has had lunch with Spielberg, Nolan, and Safran. Everyone was assuming that the subject was Superman, but maybe they just had lunch. How much would it blow your mind if they made Man of Steel 2 directed by Spielberg and produced by Nolan? If not, which DC property would you prefer the Beard to direct? Thanks. Take care, Jazzy Jules." Thanks, Julian. I do remember seeing this rumor that Spielberg had lunch with the leads over at WB. And yeah, I think I remember seeing the rumor being like, oh, they were talking about Superman. I don't know. What do you think, Jamie?
Well, first of all, a Spielberg Superman movie would probably put me in a casket. I mean, that would be just incredible because
agreed.
He's of that generation where, Superman was a really, really big deal when he was a kid. So I feel like he has, I don't know how big of a fan he is of the character, of course, but I mean, clearly he can lean into a fantasy realm and do it with the best of them. So yeah, I mean, let's welcome that with open arms and then some, fingers crossed, pray to the high heavens that we can get it done. But I don't know. I feel like that lunch very well could just as easily have been, I know we've had some, issues with filmmakers and how things are done or anything else. What can we do to appeal to the two of you to, come and work with WB on a regular basis, maybe not an exclusive type of a deal, but, you guys are two of the biggest names in filmmaking. If we get you on board, we can get, the smallers back on board with us. Maybe that was a mending the bridge, if you will. I don't know. That's kind of where my head went when I heard that.
Yeah, it definitely could have been that, or it could have just been more hey, let's talk about the slate. Let's talk about what your schedule's looking like over the next few years, and is there opportunity there? Are there windows there where we could work together? Like just sort of a more of an open conversation about any interest in things that they're willing to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you. A Spielberg Superman film, I can't imagine anyone being too mad at that. That sounds amazing. But it sounds so amazing that I'm not actually getting my hopes up for that, because that's sort of like a dream project situation.
Too good to be true, kind of a thing. I mean, just to patch on to the end of that, the answer to what would we like to see Spielberg do? Let me go ahead and give my answer for that right now. Whatever the hell he wants.
That's fair.
If he wants to do that Blackhawks movie, do the Blackhawks movie. If he wants to do Booster Gold, let him do Booster Gold. Superman, Batman, I don't care. Let him do whatever the hell he wants. Period.
I concur. Nothing. I can't argue with that. Obviously I feel like Superman would be ideal, but if it's not Superman and you're going to give, and I'm going to give a real answer that's not everything. It's a bit of a cheat even then. I'd say Justice League. I feel like give him the whole box of toys to play with, because I feel like if anyone could do it, it's him.
The only reason that wasn't my answer is I feel like Spielberg is the kind of guy, and I'm not saying he couldn't be a team player, but if you're going to establish a group of characters in a universe and then hand them off to him at the end and expect him to follow everybody else's guidelines of what those characters are, I'm not saying he wouldn't or couldn't. I'm just saying I would feel much more comfortable letting him be the one to establish some or some of the characters, and then somebody else runs with it from there. If that makes any sense. I mean, I don't want, and I'm not saying I don't support the idea. I'm just saying Spielberg to me is an innovator versus a guy who's going to play in the sandbox with the same toys the same way everybody else plays with them.
Yeah. All right. Next one. This will be fun. This is from Rich Wood, who is still feverishly making his way through our catalog. I don't know how up to date he is, so I don't know when he's going to hear this, but here's what he says. He says, guys, I've never been a big inside info as far as movies go. So when Zack Snyder stepped aside on Justice League, I figured that Joss Whedon was just taking the baton and going to the finish line. After I saw the theatrical version, I enjoyed it, but I certainly felt it could have been better, and I felt that maybe Whedon took it in a different route to the finish line that Snyder had planned. I was so happy that the Snyder Cut eventually was realized for Zack and all of those who love it so much. As I'm completing the catalog of old episodes, I've heard the lead up to the making of the Snyder Cut, and it seems as if not only did Whedon take the movie in a different direction, but I get the feeling that WB pushed hard for the changes and may have even made Snyder drastically change his theatrical release, even if he did not step away. If you could, if it's not too painful to rehash, could you give me a synopsis on how, after Snyder stepped away, his vision of Justice League evolved in the theatrical release? Thanks for making everyone's days a little more Batman-y. Rich Wood. Thanks, Rich. Oh man, that
feels really loaded.
I don't even know if loaded is the right word, but it's just a very it's a very long story.
Yeah. I guess the way that I would sum it up best, and stop me if you think I'm out of line here, watch the theatrical version and then immediately watch Zack Snyder's version, and that'll just kind of tell you,
I mean, that's true, right? You can definitely see the pieces that are shared and the pieces that certainly aren't shared. I will say this, and I feel like no matter what I say, there's going to be someone who's like, "You're wrong. That's not how it went."
Well, welcome to internet fame, right?
But I will give it to you the best for my understanding of the situation is that yes, Zack Snyder had his tragedy with his daughter Autumn. At the same time, WB, yes, was very, very nervous about Justice League after the reception of Batman versus Superman, and so we all know that Jeff Johns was on set while they were shooting, like rewriting scenes, making it a little lighter, making it a little punchier. Like that happened. And that was something that WB had asked for. And Zack Snyder himself even said, you know what, that's fine. Like he didn't even mind it. Because I think that at that time, and when you look at the Snyder Cut, a lot of that stuff is still in it. I think it blends well personally. I think that somewhat lighter touch, I think works better in Justice League, in Zack's version. But to your point, yes, WB apparently was trying very hard to change Justice League while Zack was dealing with the loss of his daughter. And that was where they chose to part ways. I do believe WB invited Zack to step away. I don't think it was Zack's idea to step away. But because of everything else he was going through, he was like, you know what? That's fine. Like if this is how it's going to be, he had too much on his plate. So he did. They brought in Joss Whedon and they're like, we want the Avengers.
And that's what we got.
They gave him the footage and they're like, take this, see what you can use and see what you can rewrite and reshoot in the next couple months where we can get a 2-hour version of this movie out. And that's what Joss Whedon did. And I feel like I don't think it was him who said it. I feel like it was one of the cast members when they were still being supportive of him publicly, where they were like, well, he's enjoying like the puzzle work of trying to fit together the puzzle of the movie he was given and the movie he was trying to make. But then when you watch the theatrical version, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like a puzzle version. And even though, historically, Jamie and I liked that movie. I still kind of like that movie. I'll still watch that movie. But my complaint always was, even from the very first day, was you can tell which parts were shot by Zack and which parts were shot by Whedon. And that,
for the most part, not all, but for the most part.
Yeah. And so I think that's, and that's always the issue. That's why I have a harder time watching that movie. Not because I think it's total garbage, but I think the seams are just too distracting for me.
Sure. And, even taking into consideration the opening credits montage in the theatrical version, how many of us just assumed that was Zack saying, hey, I did what I could. And it turns out that was Joss. It wasn't Zack.
Yeah.
So, there are certainly things that I made assumptions were still in place from Zack's initial version, but not all of it was the case. I mean, there are things, especially the humor that very much stand out to me. But yeah, I mean, it's I will still watch that movie. The 4-hour cut. Now, I'm not saying I'm mad at the 4-hour cut. That takes a lot of time to watch. The 2-hour cut, I can fold laundry and do housework and have it on in the background, and it's perfectly fine and painless. And there's still plenty for me. There's still plenty to enjoy in that version. Yeah. But I do think Zack's version is vastly superior.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, but I guess what you're really asking is publicly they said, nope, Joss is just going to finish it up. And the reality is no, their pitch to Joss was save this movie. You can have a blank check, but you've got no more time. What can you do with it? And Joss did what he could with it, based on what they were asking him to do. And now, because there are both versions, you can certainly see the difference. And I'll just echo what Jamie said is once we saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, aside from it being long, it's like, what were they trying to save? This movie's great, but they were just so damn twitchy and scared after what happened with Batman versus Superman. And they got in their own way and they screwed the whole damn thing up. And to this day, it just makes me profoundly sad that our very first Justice League movie was such a cluster F.
I mean, it's one more time for the cheap seats. The right time to reset the tone and everything else of Zack would have been after Man of Steel. But after they committed and let him do BVS, pretty much the way that he wanted done, not exactly, but along those lines with Terrio and Affleck getting involved with the writing and such. At that point, they were better off just writing it out, letting him finish it up, and then, hit the reset button when all of that was done. Because at least at that point, you didn't piss off the people who did truly love those movies.
Yeah.
But that's what they did, is they burned the bridge with those people who are still mad about it to this day. And you know what? I get it. And you're not wrong to be angry for that. Even though I may not agree with your opinions about the theatrical version, I get where you're at with it. I totally understand. But they burned the bridge with those people, and then they just didn't put out the highest quality movie possible at that point. So they didn't get the crowd reaction that they wanted. They were better off letting Zack finish his version, getting what they could out of that, and then coming in with a different cast and idea afterward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they messed up on their timing. So again, even at the early stages of BVS going into production, I feel like they should have come in and said, whoa. You guys are going too far down this road of darkness and all this other stuff. And, at that point, they probably didn't want to say no to Terrio and Affleck because they had clout with the studio at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, WB was in, I know it's fun to point fingers and say, screw that studio for doing what they did to us fans and with these movies, but they were in a difficult position to make those choices because they've got people in this stable that worked on these films that they, even Nolan to an extent, being a producer or whatnot. I mean, I don't know how much hands-on he had with Man of Steel, of course, but I mean, somebody should have just had the balls at that point if they were that concerned to step in and say, stop right there. This isn't where we want to go. Let's go someplace else with this, instead of being 80% through a universe story idea and saying, yeah, now we have to reset it. That was their mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah. Nope. I agree with you. It's one of those things where, do I understand why they were worried? Not based on watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I do understand, again, like the DC Universe was in a very precarious spot after the 1-2 punch of BVS and Suicide Squad, even though both of those movies made money. I understand their concern, but still the way they went about it was piss poor. And that's what got them into the situation they're still recovering from.
Yeah.
Ah, well, yeah. If it's not too painful to rehash, and there you have it. It's all rehash.
I was going to say that brought my Sunday morning down a little bit, but hey.
All right. Next message is from Lloyd. It says, "Hey, hallowed Bat fam. I just watched the Smallville episode where, spoiler, I think it's fine. It's been over 10 years. Where spoiler, Jonathan Kent dies, and it was like getting hit with a sack of doorknobs."
That's a new one.
I just like that image. I've been choking up without warning all day. I obviously knew that he had to die at some point, but the character development leading up to his demise made it all the more impactful. What a beautiful portrayal of a man just trying to be good in the world. What are some DC gut punches that have knocked you out? I'll make it harder for you by taking 3 of the obvious ones off the table. Hawkgirl mercy killing Solomon Grundy in JLU, Batman and Ace in Epilogue, and Darkseid killing Dan Turpin in Superman, the animated series. Love always, Lloyd. Oh man, Lloyd, it's a good question, but like, yeah, it's also one I need to think about. I will say Jonathan Kent on Smallville. It's probably my favorite version of Jonathan Kent. He was just amazing, and so it's been a long time since I've seen that episode, but I also can take myself back there and remember how heartbroken I was because yeah, John Schneider's Jonathan Kent was just amazing in that show. So other DC gut punches. Jamie, does anything jump to mind?
One big one jumps to mind that I'm shocked wasn't one that he put in that 3 that he took off the board there. And this is actually pretty relevant given the week or so's time span that we're in for it. The death of Superman.
Okay, yeah.
Which happened 30 years ago last week, I think it was. Or this week, maybe? No, it was in November. I'm almost sure it was in November. At any rate, they just released the... I think some kind of a special edition, which I unfortunately have not picked up or read at this point, but I will get to it eventually. But even though everybody and their mother that read comic books knew Superman was not going to stay dead, that was a tough read for me. This hero that you grew up with and you have at an iconic level. And, even though I, for the most part, and since I was 6 or 7 years old, have always liked Batman better, Superman means a lot to me as a character. I love Superman. He's my second favorite behind Batman. And reading that book where Superman is making that sacrifice and knowing he has to make that sacrifice and, his internal monologue going on with it while this battle with this monstrosity is going on. And you know what's coming. They've literally told you what's coming, but then getting to that point where it happens, that was a hard moment for me. Even at 17, almost 18 years old, that was a hard thing for me to read, even though I knew it wasn't going to stick. So that was a big emotional one for me.
No, that's a great one. And you're right. Like it's right there. And I don't know why I didn't even jump to that. I will say similarly, the Batman Bane fight in the middle of The Dark Knight Rises, I still have a hard time watching that, even though it's going to happen. Even the first time I watched it, I pretty much knew where it was going. It's still a tough watch watching Batman just get obliterated by Bane. It is tough.
I'll piggyback on that and say the end of that movie. I mean, I took my niece to see that at the midnight premiere with a group of other friends. Guy Milks was there in attendance with us too. And ask anybody. I took a box of tissues to the theater with me because I expected Batman to die at the end of that movie. And my niece and I were bawling at the end of that thing, knowing that, Batman just sacrificed himself for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, there was another one that I just thought of that I lost. Something like that.
There's a lot of them. I mean, I'll even give you a small, more obscure one. DC quarterly publishes the various, holiday or seasonal tribute books where it's just a compilation of a bunch of short stories in a thick, 80-page giant book. You know what I'm talking about. There was one that they did for spooky season. I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And there was a story, and I don't mean to give away the ending for this, but I mean, it hit me pretty hard in that there was like a zombie virus going through the earth or whatever. Superman was off world. And literally the end of this 6 or 8 page story was Superman flying back to Earth. And it said something to the effect of, and now the Man of Steel must return to see his second world dead or something like that. And it's like, oh my God, put the dagger in my heart. Why don't you? So that was tough.
How about one of the 18 times when Tom King talked about killing Batman?
No, none of those do anything for me. So we're safe there.
I just love that when that dude's like, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll just kill Batman again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, no, I remember what I was going to say is earlier in my chat with Brendan, I talked about the amazing scene in the middle of Mask of Phantasm with Bruce at the gravestones.
That's where I was going next. So
I already talked about that scene, but I will say one of the reasons I love Mask of the Phantasm so much is the ending. The ending is such an emotional gut punch of Bruce sitting alone in the cave, mourning the loss of Andrea, and then it cutting to Andrea, and that guy says, "Oh, do you want to be alone?" And she says, "I am." Oh, I love it, but it is so tragic, and it always like hurts, but in a good way.
Yeah, I fully agree. I love that movie beginning to end. So yeah, I'm on board with that for sure. Yeah, like I say, there's a bunch of them. I mean, I could probably just put myself into utter depression going through and thinking about all the times that comics or TV
Oh,
or movies have
oh,
gotten me with that stuff.
oh. How about the middle of Identity Crisis with Tim Drake?
Oh,
I can't.
my dude, no.
I can't. No. That whole still that reading that issue was one of the most intense reading experiences of my life. And I was reading it like as fast as I could because like I was like on the edge of my seat reading the way I would be with a movie.
It seems crazy to say because that book is pretty well revered, but I still feel like not enough people have read it.
It's so great. It's one of my favorites.
Because I feel like it should be up there with the likes of, this is going to be sacrilegious to some of you, but I mean it. I feel like this should be up there with the likes of Batman Hush or
yeah.
any of these iconic stories that we talk about. Identity Crisis is up there with the best of them, y'all. So if you have not read it, please, by all means, go to your shop, find the single issues, find the trade paperback, find it on DC Universe Infinite, wherever you can get it, and read that because it deserves your time and attention.
Agreed. It is one of my favorites. All right. So there you go. There's some DC gut punches for you. Next message is from Matthew Petts. It says, I just finished listening to Jamie's thoughts on Black Adam. First, I have a hunch that Black Adam will fight Superman in the next film and beat him due to Superman's weakness to magic. Then in Shazam 3, Shazam will fight Black Adam and win, thus elevating him to true superhero status and changing the hierarchy of the DC universe. Second, Brave and the Bold has 2 great Halloween episodes, Trials of the Demon and Dawn of the Dead Man. Trials of the Demon is a riff on Gotham by Gaslight, but with a supernatural element, and Dawn of the Dead Man takes place during Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Keep up the great work and keep being awesome dudes, husbands, and fathers. All right, thanks, Matthew. I have to revisit those episodes of The Brave and the Bold because it sounds like they are spooky, but not explicitly Halloween, which is, I think, kind of the point I've made in the past. Is yes, we can find spooky Batman content, but not true Halloween Batman content.
Yeah.
But there's one episode of Brave and the Bold, and I don't know if it's one of these because I can't keep them all straight. That remember how the Brave and the Bold always had a prologue and then they had the credits and then they had the full episode?
Mm-hmm.
One of those, the prologue was Halloween. And then they did the credits and then the actual episode was something spookier, but not Halloween explicitly. And so I wonder if it's one of these.
I don't know.
I've got to go back and look. But Matthew, thank you for the heads up. I do want to go back and revisit these next spooky season to see if I've missed out on some good Batman spooky content.
And you know what he's saying about his ideas for Shazam and Black Adam and Superman there, I'm not opposed to that idea. And I'll tell you why, is because what always stands out to me, if I'm sure you've read Kingdom Come at some point, most of us have, another iconic story, of course, but I believe it's Batman doing his little internal monologue and talking about how Batson is literally the most powerful being in the DC universe. He's the one that could save or destroy us all or something to that effect. And establishing Shazam as that high level hero, I think would work. I think he deserves it. I think I would like it if they did that. I don't know that that's where they're going to go, but I would like it if they did.
Yeah, I don't know if they would fully commit to Superman being defeated and Shazam succeeding. I think it would be more sort of like what a lot of these messages have said, where Black Adam might be too much for either of them alone, but together they could bring him down.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you'd almost have to establish it as one of those situations where you have a movie that's continuing from another movie, within the shared universe concept that's 3 to 6 months down the road, and pick it up and run with it. You can get away with it, but if you're gonna have Superman get beat down by Black Adam and then wait 2 or 3 years for the continuance of that, I don't think that's gonna fly.
Yeah,
I feel like that's too much gap there. Fighting to a standstill, now that I can maybe see.
Right. All right, there are a couple more messages in here that are tributes to Kevin Conroy, so I do want to go ahead and share those before we log off for the day. This one here is from Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCasters, it's a sad time to be a Batman fan. I'm absolutely devastated over the loss of Kevin Conroy. More so to the fact that I met him in April and he seemed okay, and from all accounts, that was the fact. I'm not going to lie, but he is the Batman who made me a fan, and he made me live. I probably supposed to be love. Made me love the complexity of the character. It's sad that we'll never hear his voice again, but we're all here together and can aspire to be a man who fought impossible odds and crazed clowns, who brought complexity and nuance to the character we all love, who fought gods and monsters and dodged omega beams, and all, finally, held the hand of a child on her deathbed and brought joy to millions of children in the world for generations to come, all through the power of his voice. He isn't just Batman. He isn't just our Batman. He is the Batman. We'll always love him for that. Godspeed, Kevin, and to any Batman fan who is struggling, remember that you're never alone. Tom Fallows.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Very true, and I definitely appreciate you sharing your tribute to him. And this next one is from Mike Berry, and it says, "Hey, Holy BatCast crew, the passing of Kevin Conroy has left me shocked. In 2016, I was lucky to meet him at the Wizard World Philadelphia Comic-Con. I think I waited about 20 minutes, and I paid $25 for a photo and autograph, but I got something more. I shook his hand and explained how important his performance was to me and helped shape my love for the character. I started to get overwhelmed with emotion and misty-eyed, as I'm getting now writing this. I asked if I could give him a hug, and without hesitation, he said, of course. He patted my back and thanked me for the kind words, and that memory will live within my heart forever. They say never meet your heroes because they disappoint. Kevin was kind and genuine, exceeding my expectations that I could have had. I'll miss him not only as an actor or Batman, but I will miss him because he was one of my heroes. Anyway, sorry for the long story, but thank you for listening. Please check out my show, Geeks at the Nerd Table. Mike, thank you, Mike. And thank you for sharing that. Earlier in the episode, Brendan and I talked about how he always was so generous with fans, and your story is a perfect example of that. I love that you were able to hug Kevin Conroy. I didn't have the guts to ask him for a hug when I met him, and now I kind of wish I had, because what a wonderful memory. And I'm so glad that you shared it here, because it is just another great example of just what kind of person he was, and really just embodying the heart and soul of this character, and just being a warm and wonderful person on his own terms. So definitely appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
That just goes with what I was saying. Not a single account.
No, it's absolutely true. All right. Well, we still have more emails, but that's okay. We're going to get those. We'll get to those next time. Gotta spread the love. And also we're getting to about time. But Jamie, thanks again for making the time this morning to talk some Batman, to talk some Kevin Conroy, and really remember that wonderful person who brought Batman to life for so many, for so long.
Yeah. And it's kind of a bittersweet thing that we have to pay a tribute to someone who's gone too soon. But at the same time, like I said, there's opportunities. He one of the emails just now mentioned that we'll never hear his voice again. And you know what? That's not true. All you got to do is press play on your favorite watching or listening device, and you have it right there at your disposal. And as long as we keep that light shining for the next generations, it's just going to keep on living on.
Absolutely. So awesome. We're going to wrap this one up for now. A fitting tribute to Kevin Conroy, but we'll be back before you know it. I will get a few episodes together before I leave town again for Christmas. But I am committed to do so. And you'll hear Brendan, you'll hear Jamie, and you will hear me. So Jamie, always a pleasure. Please tell our friends where they can find you.
You can find me occasionally on Twitter at BatRaider3960. You can find me on This Fine Podcast and occasionally some of the other ones in the network. And you can also generally find me floating around the Real Fans groups on Facebook. We're, in the full swing of Cheerathon right now. And that's keeping the group pretty active. And everybody's sharing what they're watching for the Christmas and holiday season. So, yeah, check that out if you want to find me.
Awesome. I already told you where to find me, but thank you as always for joining us. Thanks for downloading or streaming the show. Please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, and rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. That would be super helpful. We would appreciate that. You can go to holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. And if you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by Gaurav Venkateswar, so a huge thank you to him. His work can be found at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Do a little holiday shopping for someone in your life. But if you do, make sure that you use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. That'll do it for this episode. On behalf of Brendan and Jamie, I've been Andy. And reminder, please stay tuned after the closing because I am going to play that Kevin Conroy cameo that I received in 2020 so we can all hear his voice one more time. So please, stay tuned to hear for that. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Happy birthday, Andy. This is Batman, calling from Wayne Manor. Your friend Thomas Wagner wanted me to send you this shout out, so this is just for you. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. And remember, Andy, it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you. Okay, now this is Kevin. Happy birthday. And congratulations on your podcast, Holy BatCast. The fun thing for me about doing this role has been this interaction that I get to have with the audience, because the Batman audience, as you know, is incredible. They're so passionate about the character. And my theory about why that is true is because he's the only superhero who isn't a superhero. He doesn't have any superpowers. He can't fly, he can't see through walls, he can't bend metal. He's a human being, he's a man, he's like you and me. In fact, he's a very flawed man, and he's aware of his flaws. But we're all aware of his flaws. It's like the audience is in on the joke, you know? And it makes him that much more appealing because we're all flawed. So we can relate to him. Because all he has is his physical strength and his intellect to serve him on his mission. And his mission is to rid the world of evil, to leave it a better place. It's such a noble cause. That's what we love about him. And also his tenacity. He never gives up, no matter what life throws at him. He keeps coming back. And Andy, those are qualities we can all aspire to, because you don't have to have superpowers to want to give to your family, your friends, your community, to leave the world a better place. You don't have to be a superhero to be tenacious in your goals in life. All you have to do is care enough to try. And the world needs us right now to try more than ever, because there is so much going on right now. There is so much crisis in the world. It's crazy, isn't it? But we need each other because we're all we have. Because life is hard for everybody. Everybody gets the crap beaten out of them by life sooner or later. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has disappointments. Everyone makes mistakes because we're human. I don't care how rich and powerful someone is. They've made mistakes in their life. They don't brag about it, but you know they have because they're human. And at those moments, you realize really quickly what's important. And what's important is not how much money you have or how powerful you are or what kind of job you have, because those things evaporate. As quickly as they appeared, they disappear. What's important is the people in your life, the love in your life, the friends who believe in you, who see you. That's what's important. A friend like Thomas. That's what it's about. So keep nurturing those friendships in your life. Life can be so distracting, can it? It can be confusing, it can be distracting. You get so wrapped up in the day-to-day drama of life that we sometimes neglect our friends. Nurture those friendships. That's what it's about. So have a wonderful birthday. Thomas also asked me how I thought Batman would take down a T-Rex. I have no idea. I know that if I saw a T-Rex coming at me, I would run so fast the other way. Those things are terrifying. Jurassic Park was terrifying. I'm sorry. Those raptors? Oh my God. Who wants to be lizard food? Not me. So have a great birthday. And remember, Batman has always got your back.